Okay, first we have the anatomical terms. And first we have the body positions, that are the descriptions of any region or part of the body. Assume that the body is in the anatomical position. That is actually this one that we are seeing here. And when it's the person stands erect, facing the observer, with the head level and the eye facing forward, and the feet are flat on the floor and directed forward, and the arms are hanging at the sides, as we can see, with the palms facing forward, like this. We can use two terms to describe a body is lying down. That is the prone, then when the body is lying face down, as we can see here, and the spine, then when it's lying facing up. We can see it over here. Then we have to continue to the regional names. First, the head, that is over here. It's this part of the face. The neck, here. The trunk, that is over here. This part, it would be the trunk. The upper limb, that is like here from the shoulder to our hand, and the lower limb is over here to our feet. Then in this image we can see the directional terms, here in this part being the superior, and this would be the posterior. Then here the dorsal. This part over here is the cranial, and the caudal. Then if we divide the body in half, we have here the medial, like it would be this part, as we could see in the image, and one part it would be the lateral. Now if we have this could be the lateral, as we could see here in the image. This part of here on the feet, our feet, it would be the inferior. And proximal, we can use it like to describe the distance of one organ to another. We also have deep, that is inside our body, and the superficial, that is like here our skin. Then in this image we could see the body planes. Body plane is our imaginary flat surface that are used to divide the body or organs to visualize interior structures. Here we have the sagittal plane first, that is a vertical plane, as we could see in the image, that divides the body or an organ into right and left sides. We could see that one side is like in blue, that is divided, the other side that is in white. Then a frontal, the red one, or the other name is coronal plane, divides the body or an organ into anterior and posterior parts. We could see here that the back is in red because it's the posterior part, and we have the part in white, that is the other part divided. And we also have the transverse plane that divides the body into the superior and the inferior part, as we divide. We could see in the image here, it divided like in part in green and cut it in the middle. The body cavities are spaces in the body that help protect or separate and support internal organs. The human body is divided into two main cavities, the ventral cavity and the dorsal cavity. The ventral cavity is divided into the thoracic, as we could see here in the image, abdominal, pelvic cavities, while the dorsal is divided into the cranial, here, and vertebral cavities. The thoracic cavity is a cavity that is formed by the ribs, the chest muscles, the sternum, and the thoracic portion of the vertebral column. Within the thoracic cavity are the vertical cavity, and each pleural cavity surrounds one lung and contains a small amount of fluid. The central part of the thoracic cavity called the mediastinum, and contains all the organs except the lungs. And also it includes the heart, esophagus, trachea, thymus, and several large blood vessels. And over here, the abdominopelvic cavity extends from the diaphragm to the groin, and it's closed by the abdominal wall and the bones and muscles of the pelvis. The abdominal cavity is the superior part that contains the stomach, spleen, liver, gallbladder, small intestine, and more intestines. The pelvic cavity is the inferior part that contains the urinary bladder, portions of the large intestine, and internal organs of the reproductive system. And they also contain the viscera. And over here, the cranial cavity is formed by the cranial bones and contains the brain. The spinal or vertebral cavity is formed by the vertebral column and contains the spinal cord. Okay, we have a tissue is a group of similar cells that work together to carry out a specific function. We have the epithelial tissue that consists of tightly packed cells that form a continuous layer because the cells are closely packed, as we can see, and are held tightly together by many cells. There is a little intercellular space between adjacent plasma membranes, and the basement membrane usually joins the epithelium to the underlying connective tissue. Then we have the connective tissues that has cells that are widely separated by a matrix, which is a non-cellular material that is made up of a group substance and fibers. The matrix is usually secreted by the connective tissue cells and determines the tissue's quality. And these not usually occur on body surfaces like the epithelia tissue, and are highly vascular, that is, they are a rich blood supply. And they also have their own nerve. And here, muscle tissue, we have three different types. First is skeletal, that is attached bones of the skeleton, is voluntary, and it consists of skeletal muscles. Fibers that are cylindrical, as we could see in the image. And then we have here the cardiac muscle fibers that are attached to each other end to end. Here we could see that it's in part of the heart and it's involuntary. And the smooth muscle tissues is found on the walls of hollow internal structures, so that's blood vessels, as we could see here in the image. Also the airways to the lungs, the stomach, as we can see here, intestines, gallbladder, and its construction helps constrict to narrow the lumen of blood vessels, break down and move food along the digestive tract, and basically move fluids through the body. Then we have the nervous tissue that consists of two cells, neurons and neuroglia, that represents the brain and spinal, and that it's present in the brain and spinal cord. A neuron is a super specialized cell that has three parts: a cell body, dendrites, and an axon.